UMC. So we'll let you go ahead and begin this morning. And yes, and however you would like to, are you going to be doing all the speaking or are you going to pass it off to others?
I'm going to do the speaking, but I'm going to ask Dr. Jones to fill in anything I forget.
No worries. We'll let you do that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank y'all for having us here this morning. We appreciate it. I've got Dr. Alan Jones here with me. We have a slide deck to share with you. Let me check and see if I can make those happen. I may be having a little technical. Okay. All right. So, we are glad this morning to share a little information about the medical center. Is this better? Okay. We've got a packet of information there for you, and the slide deck information is included in your packet, as well as some additional information. So just to make you aware of that. All right. So I do feel like the people in the room know a lot about the medical center already, and I'm going to go ahead though and touch base on some of the kind of big picture points. I'm happy along the way, if anybody has questions, to stop and ask those questions. But just as a reminder, for those of you here, we're the only academic medical center in the state of Mississippi, and you can kind of see the list of services and programs that we provide that aren't provided elsewhere. We are the second largest employer in Mississippi and have over 3,000 students, residents, and fellows. There's another slide in a minute about some of the student activity, but I also want to point out here that on an annual basis, we also have around 1,500 students that come to the medical center that are enrolled in other programs, but they come for some part of their training. So everywhere you look, there are learners, students, residents, and fellows. The year that ended June 30, 2025, our most recent complete fiscal year, our research mission brought in over $100 million in external funding for research, mainly federal funds through NIH. We have a little over 1,000 licensed beds. So there's a lot going on at the medical center. Just to touch base on where we are across the state of Mississippi, people tend to think about us as a hospital and health system in Jackson, and that's absolutely correct. When I talk to new employees on Monday mornings, I say this is the mothership, but we also have a presence across the state, pretty much in every county. And you can see the first map with the orange and the red that shows a lot of our clinical sites. The blue dots are where learners go. So just as I mentioned, students come in and rotate with us from other programs. We also send our students out for rotations in communities all across the state. And then the green dots are our telehealth sites. So we really do blanket the state with our services and our presence. We're a safety net hospital. And I think you're all aware of that. We have a statutory mandate to serve as a safety net hospital for the state of Mississippi, and that is an important part of what we do. We do that along with providing those extra specialized tertiary quaternary care that you can't get anywhere else in the state of Mississippi. This again is just a quick tally on our students. We have learners from 80 of the 82 counties, a little over 3,000 in all of our schools. You can see our School of Nursing at 961 for the August 2025 count is the largest school. All the schools are growing, and they're growing based on information related to the healthcare workforce needs in Mississippi. All of our schools are in a growth phase. 2 new programs that will be starting this academic year, this calendar year actually. A Master's of Public Health will begin this summer. That will be open to our medical students. And then a Doctor of Nurse Anesthesia, CRNA program will begin in August. I have to put a air asterisk by that, because it is pending approval from the accreditation body, but we are in that process and all boxes are being checked, and we anticipate full approval from the accrediting body. And we'll take up to 25 students For that class, this fall, we've already had over 100 applications. This touches on our research with the point I mentioned earlier, the over $100 million in research funding this last year. And that was actually a little bit lower than some of the previous years. We anticipate that number going back up. It dipped a little bit because some of the things that were happening at the federal level, grants were slow to be approved, some grants were changed. But still, even in a year that I would consider not our strongest year, we brought in over $100 million to support the research mission. The clinical care is where we have our biggest footprint. And there are a lot of numbers on this page that I'm not going to read out to you, just let you look at them with a couple of key points. We take care of patients from all across the state, all 82 counties. The case mix index number, I know, is something that people who are not in healthcare are not accustomed to seeing. That is a measure, basically, of how complex and how sick your patients are. And that is a high case mix index. That allows us to kind of compare ourselves and benchmark to other hospitals and health systems all around the country, because that is a national sort of definition, and it helps correct for really, truly how complicated are your patients, how sick are they. And then you can see when it comes to patient transfers, we have a transfer center. We take lots and lots. You can see almost 250,000 calls each year regarding patient care. Those aren't all transfer calls to us, but there are a whole variety of types of calls and questions about expertise. On average, we accept around 35 to 40 patients a day from other hospitals in the state asking to transfer those patients in to our health system. This is a little bit more detailed than one of the earlier maps that just showed some of our clinical presence. This is specific to Children's of Mississippi, showing both our hospital partner sites in the little squares, and then the dots are different towns and clinic sites. So over the last 15 years, there's been a real emphasis on all things pediatrics and trying to partner with others across the state to help them either have access to pediatric specialists, some hospital services, et cetera. Each one of these is a different story. You know, if we tried to just go line by line by line and tell you what was happening in each one of these towns, it's different from one town to another, and it's based on what we were asked to do. So in North Mississippi, for example, with the North Mississippi Health System, we cover lots of pediatric specialists and services and programs, inpatient, lots of things with them. That relationship has been in place for over a decade. It's probably our most robust. It's been a wonderful partnership. And then in Greenville at the Delta Health System, they ask us to help them with pediatric coverage so that they could keep their well baby nursery open. So in that instance, it's one service line where we are working with them to provide the pediatric coverage so they can keep their well baby nursery open at that hospital. I think everybody is aware of the challenges that we have in maternal care, and especially in the Delta. So it is really good for that hospital to be able to deliver well babies there. It's good for us, for them to be able to deliver well babies there. And most of all, it's good for the patients that live in that community to be able to do that. This is the location map for our adult clinics. So this kind of shows, and the point for both of these is just again to demonstrate to you, the mothership is in Jackson. There are lots of services that we offer that you can only get in Jackson. If you need a liver transplant, you will have to come to the medical center in Jackson. If your child needs to go to the neonatal intensive care unit, that's in Jackson. But we are working with doctors and health systems and communities across the state to extend our reach in those communities when and where it makes sense to better help the patient so that not all the patients, have the answer of, well, you got to go to Jackson. We wanted to give an update on our state-funded construction projects. You all have supported us over the years in a fantastic way. Because of that support, we were able in October to open the Alice G. Clark Center for Medically Fragile Children. I just call that the Clark Center. So that's located near IHL, about 2 miles off of our campus. And it's a 20-bed pediatric skilled nursing facility for those children that are too sick to go home. They can't be cared for at home. Prior to this opening, there wasn't an option in Mississippi. There was not a place for them to go. And again, all of you, I think, know the medical center very well and have heard us talk about some of these children have lived with us for 15, 18, 20 years. So this is really a great thing for Mississippi that you all funded and supported. We opened the Burn Center almost a year ago, again, supported by you. And that unit has been nearly at capacity since it has opened. We take care of adults and children, the only facility in the state that's taking care of children with burns. Next month, we will move into the inpatient adolescent psych unit. We have already had in place for a number of years, of course, an adult psych unit and a child psych unit, but did not have an adolescent psych unit. And there is a huge need for that. So we anticipate opening that next month. As I said, we're excited about that. You all provided funds, 55 million to go toward a $65 million project for our nursing school. That is on track to open this summer. It will actually open in a couple of phases, but June is the first phase, and then a couple of months later, a second portion. Again, our nursing school is our largest school, and it is growing. This will allow us to grow it even more. The dental school expansion that you supported is underway. The construction is underway. The construction fences are up. It's a mess over there by the dental school right now, but sort of excuse our mess. It's progress happening. And so that tower will open in about another year or 14 months. So we're excited about that. And both of those are projects that you all have supported. So I want to talk for a few minutes about cancer, because that's the big ask that we have this year. That's the next big thing that we are asking you to support as a state. So one of the things that we have in Mississippi, we have the worst cancer outcomes in the country. And you can kind of look at this, and there's more information in your packet about some of the cancer outcomes, but you can see that our cancer outcomes are the worst in the country. And the red on this map are the ones that are really, really bad. So you can see that particularly clustered in the Mississippi Delta, the cancer outcomes there, specifically for Black males, is actually equal to not just the worst in the country, but the worst in the world. So we've got a problem as far as that goes. We've got a problem. We have the worst cancer outcomes in the country. And people say, why? And there's not one single answer to the why. There are a lot of things that build into that. We're still the lowest in the country in physicians per capita. That's part of it, but also prevention, access, patient education. There's so many pieces of this puzzle. There's not just a one silver bullet that is kind of the single reason that we have these outcomes. So that's what we do have. What we don't have in Mississippi is the gold standard kind of cancer program that is available in other places in the country. And it's called NCI, National Cancer Institute Designated Center. We don't have one of those in Mississippi anywhere. There's not one in Louisiana. There's not one in Arkansas. When you think about the places patients go when they leave Mississippi to get something that's better, to get something we don't have here, it's MD Anderson, it's UAB, it's Vanderbilt, sometimes it's Mayo. Those are NCI designated centers. NCI designated centers have things you don't have if you're not one of those. I have used the phrase, it's the club that we're not in. And again, nobody in Louisiana, nobody in Arkansas. So our Mississippians that have the means leave the state and go to these NCI designated centers. In order to apply for NCI designation, the key requirement is a certain amount of horsepower, a certain horsepower in research. If you can't get over that hurdle, it's a no-go. Because of that, UMMC is the only entity in the state that can make this application. And that's a point I want to be sure you all hear me say. Nobody else in the state, no matter how much of a fine hospital or health system or physician group they may be, nobody else can do this. It's either us or it doesn't happen. So we are the only ones that can do this. Why is this important? Part of that program, it's very comprehensive. It speaks to prevention and all of those pieces that I mentioned earlier. Patients have access to clinical trials and other resources and expertise that you do not have if you are not an NCI designated center. And what we know at the end of the day, this is good for the patients. Studies have shown all across the country in rural states, in areas that are not rural, that patients who receive their care at an NCI designated center, it improves their survival rate in cancer. There's also a halo effect. I don't have this on the slides, but outcomes are improved in other things as well. And I think it is just developing that infrastructure for that kind of care. So another point I want to make is our ask, I'm going to get to the punchline. Our ask is for $100 million to support this project. And sometimes people say, well, what if we use the $100 million if we're going to put it in cancer and we did all these other things? We kind of spread it around and we did all these other things. What I'm going to say about that is that might get us some pretty clinics and some nice programs, but it won't get us NCI designation. So at the end of the day, we won't have the tools that we need to change these cancer outcomes in the state. So what we are working toward is NCI designation. With your support from our cancer line item, we are recruiting researchers as fast as we can. That is, as I said, the first hurdle and a big piece of what we've got to do. In addition, we are planning for and raising money for a cancer facility. The price tag on this cancer facility is $250 million. We started about 14 months ago in the quiet phase of a campaign to raise $125 million. Right now, we are knocking on the door of $90 million just a year later. So not only have we been able to recruit cancer researchers faster than I thought, we've actually raised these funds ahead of our internal schedule, which is great. The enthusiasm that we are meeting for this project is phenomenal. It really is. So we're raising 125. As I said, we're already knocking on the door of 90. We are ahead of our internal schedule, which is great. According to our development experts, we are still in the quiet phase, but they know that I'm talking about this everywhere I go. So I'm not being quiet about it. We're talking about it a lot. We are asking you, the state legislature, to support us to the tune of $100 million to support us in this project. So that is our ask this year. We are also working with our federal delegation, particularly our senators, Senator Wicker, Senator Hyde-Smith, and Michael Guest, Congressman Guest. We are in his district. They are very enthusiastic and looking for lots of different ways to help us. And we've got about $40 million in request that they are considering and trying to work through. Part of that 40 million pertains to renovation of old research space. It's not necessarily for the building, but part of it is. It's for some site prep and other things. So it's a combination of these things that we'll pull together to make this happen. And then you can see the little line at the bottom, the remaining, whatever the uncovered amount is, we will take out in revenue bonds as we do typically for our clinical expansion and clinical growth. So we will take that out in debt for the medical center. So I've already said this, I think about 3 times, and I think that is the end. Let me stop for questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Woodward. On that last point on the remaining funds, how much leeway or room do you have for revenue bonds? Are y'all pretty pretty clean right now on extension of, do you have bonds out right now that would
So-
inhibit you from getting what you needed if you had to go that route?
We do have some bonds that are out right now, and when we do a bond like this, we go through the IHL system, so it takes into account, the debt capacity for the whole system. But we have been working with IHL, and they know that this is on the radar. So I think that we would have the capacity for some bonds. We would not, I don't think, have the capacity to take the whole thing out in bonds, but we would have the capacity for some bonds.
Yeah, well, hopefully you don't have to, but
And when we built the Sanderson Tower, that's the only children's hospital in the state. And that project was a $180 million project. We raised 100 million. And we got 30 million from the state, and the remaining 60 million we took out in revenue bonds in that project. So we have kind of put these sort of packages together.
yeah, and the other question I got, and you and I've spoken about this before, and as it relates to the NCI designation, a chicken and egg kind of thing, and I get it. You can't get there unless you start the process, but at the same time, you don't want to go too deep in the process without knowing that you're going to get NCI. Is there a high level of confidence that if the legislature funds the brick and mortar portion, that you got the research and I know Dr. Riccone is there too, but you've got the people and the research that you're going to need to be able to get that? Have you been given any feedback from the designators that
Yes.
that this would happen?
So in May, Dr. Riccone will have been with us 2 years or 3. It's 3 years. Time flies when you're having fun. So even prior to him coming, and since then, we have been in communications with the folks at NCI, and we've been kind of talking to them about this process. They will not give us a pass on any of the criteria because that's not what they do. But they have been exceedingly encouraging because they know the need in the state. I mean, they basically, we talked to them. Senator Wicker's office helped set up a big conference call with us for them. And it was probably 2 weeks before Dr. Riccone arrived, and we said, he's coming, he'll start in May, blah, blah, blah. And they said, we want to talk to him the day he gets there. So we have been working closely with them. They are very encouraging. And we have a few strengths that are somewhat unique that they find very positive. Number one, our telehealth program. I would say we have the strongest telehealth program in the country. We are one of 2 federally designated centers of excellence, but we have a fantastic telehealth program that will be a part of this. The Natural Products Center at Ole Miss is the only one of those in the country that will be a part of this. So we have got our School of Population Health. We've got some unique, I would say, strengths that are going to be a component of our application that they find very exciting. So they have been most encouraging. Again, it is a whole process at the federal level, and just because they're excited about us doing it doesn't mean they're going to give us any kind of break on the criteria. We've got to build the programs that are required, but I'm confident we can do it.
Well, I would hope that due to the slide you showed earlier on the cancer rates and the outcomes that we have in Mississippi, that would certainly be a positive for wanting to have a center here in Mississippi.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
we've got, you hate that you have to say that it's a fertile territory, so to speak. You'll have a lot of people you can assist and a lot of research that can be done too, I would hope and think. Is that part of it as well?
Yes. And I think that the reason we have recruited researchers to this point faster than I thought we could is number one, the support from you all. Number two, Dr. Riccone is a force of nature. He's a very charismatic guy, and he's on fire about this. But to your point, in the world of cancer research, people look at what our situation here and realize that this is a place where a program can be built and really make a difference. He's gotten cold calls from researchers that are at other NCI designated centers saying, what are y'all doing in Mississippi? I've been hearing some chatter. So as, you know, you have to say it very delicately, but the situation that we have where we're already the worst in a way is very intriguing and appealing to people who want to do research in this field.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Wilbur. Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming
you.
so early this morning.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
yes. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Hmm. Get it. Okay, I think we're about ready to get started. Dr. Rankins, are you ready? Okay, all right. I know that there are some of the other presidents coming in the doorway. Are they going to be joining you or are you just going to be speaking for the? Okay, all right, we will ask them to. Yeah, we could ask you all, good morning, ask you all to come and sit at the table.
How you doing? Saw you on TV the other night. Yeah, I looked up and there's. Yeah. Oh.
Hey, good morning. It appears we have everyone. So if we can, we'll go ahead and get started. We do have some limited time here as we gavel in at 10. But Dr. Rankins, as you are speaking today, if you want to acknowledge those that you want to speak, I'll allow you to do that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right, thank you. We're ready to begin.
Good morning. I want to thank our subcommittee chair, Senator Parks, all members of the committee and staff for what you do to support our public universities and for allowing us to present our requests this morning. Senator Parks, when I conclude my presentation, if you'll allow our presidents to talk about specific needs and challenges on their campuses. And also, I want to take a point of privilege to recognize President Miller. She recently announced that she'll be retiring. So I just want to thank her in front of this body for her decades of service to the state of Mississippi. Senators, on page 2, I want to highlight that across the IHL system, we have over 28,000 employees. We have over $5.8 billion operating budget. We manage over 1,600 buildings. We garner over $740 million in sponsored research. And in carrying out our mission, we award over 19,000 degrees. On page 3 of the slides, based on our November census date for the fall of 2025, overall, we saw a 2.7% increase in headcount enrollment, or about 2,144 students. 7 out of the 8 IHL universities saw an enrollment increase, with the largest total increase at the University of Mississippi and the largest percentage increase at Mississippi University for women when these numbers are compared to fall 2024 headcount numbers. If we take a look at enrollment by residency on slide 4, the table shows the differences in the percentages of in-state versus out-of-state students by university. If we look at Alcorn, they're at 75%, in-state, Delta State 80%, MUW 88%, Mississippi Valley 69%, Jackson State 55%, Mississippi State University 61%, the University of Mississippi 42%, and the University of Southern Mississippi at 73%. So across our system, a majority of the students that we educate are Mississippi residents. Also, you see for fiscal year 2026, our annual tuition rates, with our 4 regional universities having a flat tuition rate and our research universities charging a non-resident surcharge at various levels. On page 5, there are 3 major financial indicators the board uses to evaluate the financial health of our universities. They are debt service coverage, days of cash, and debt to equity ratio. All 8 of our universities currently meet the debt service coverage and debt to equity standards. All, with the exception of Delta State and MUW, meet the days of cash standard based on fiscal year 2025 unaudited financial statements. On page 6, I want to note that not only does the financial health of our universities affect the viability and the quality of the educational experience for our students, it is also critical to maintaining regional accreditation and a positive credit rating for our system. A good credit rating is needed to self-fund infrastructure projects and facility projects via revenue bonds and some types of public-private partnerships or P3s. You will note on slide 7 that all of our universities are fully accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, and none are on accreditation sanctions from our regional accreditors. Of note, SAC-COC's decennial review at the University of Southern Mississippi will occur during this calendar year. On page 8, SAC-COC has 2 specific standards regarding adequate financial and fiscal resources at our universities. These standards must be met in order for our universities to maintain their accreditation status. If by chance an institution loses its regional accreditation status, students that attend those universities will not be subjected to Title IV funding like Pell Grants and student loans. On page 9, our system currently has a strong credit rating from Moody's. Moody's notes the board's strong fiscal oversight of our universities and conservative budgeting practices as a good predictor of financial outcomes across our university system. On page 10, based on the most recently available data from the Southern Region Education Board, the average appropriation per full-time student is approximately $7,600 per student. Our average across our universities is approximately $4,900 per full-time student. The table shows Mississippi compared to its neighbors in 4 contiguous states. Part of our request will be to try to get our universities closer to the regional average in appropriation per full-time student. Slide 10 is from our recent Gordon report that all of you have seen before. This report is a study of our campus facilities and summarizes our current and projected facility repair and renovation needs. Currently, the backlog of deferred maintenance is about 1.6 billion. They're projecting over the next 1 to 3 years needed dollars for repair and renovation at 346 million, 493 in 4 to 7 years, and 243 in 8 to 10 years. And slide 12 shows how the 1.6 billion in deferred maintenance backlog is distributed across each of our university campuses. Slide 13 summarizes our appropriation requests. If funded, this would restore the reductions that occurred during the current fiscal year and bring funding for our universities closer to the SREB median appropriation per FTE. This request also includes 80 million for capital expense funds to help with our current repair and renovation needs on our campuses. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the board's ongoing work to modify our allocation model on slide 14. The directive from our board is to look at a allocation model that supports the operations of our campuses, accounts for enrollment gains and losses, and incentivizes our universities to meet certain board identified performance goals and metrics. The National Center for Higher Ed Management Systems, referred to as NCHIMS, is our consultant that is working for us on this project. I provided a timeline on the slide of where we are during this process. I know there's been a lot of talk and a lot of angst about this process here at the Capitol and across our state. Currently, NCHIMS is meeting with leaders here, meeting with our leaders at our universities, and IHL System Office, as well as InSpark, is providing NCHIMS with data as they go through their work. I want to thank you for your time, your attention, and your support for our public universities here in our state. At this time, Chairwoman Parks, our university presidents are here, our chancellor is here, and if you allow them to talk about specific needs and challenges on their campuses, and at the end, I will take any questions from the committee.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chancellor Boyce, we'll start with you if you have any comments.
That's, we live in, and you know this, and I hate to be redundant about things, but we just live in such a competitive environment in higher education. For whatever reason, I don't think everybody understands that the competition is extraordinary in today's marketplace. And for us to serve the state at the highest levels possible, and for us to design programming, academic programming in particular, and research around what benefits the state the most, it just requires funding, and it requires significant funding. And we want to be as competitive as any of our people that we're competing against across the state and the southeastern region of the United States, where most of our students come from. And so in turn, the support that we get is absolutely essential for us to be successful. And there's no way we can continue to expand our programming, and there's no way we can continue to expand our operations and do it at the quality level that makes us competitive without your support. It's just that simple. And it's been difficult. It's been challenging the last few years. It's been challenging to keep our faculty. It's been challenging to keep great staff members and keep researchers. And you've heard this before over and over, year after year, but it's just an accurate truth. And please keep in mind that as we look out there and look at the competition all across the southeastern part of the United States, if you really look at the kind of support that other university systems are given across the state, and then you look at where we stand, it's really something that makes it amazing that we're doing what we're doing for the state and how we're achieving at the levels that we're achieving. And if you look at us, I think one of the things that's really important to note is that I believe that our performance measures and our performance metrics as a system have increased. And I think we're working very, very hard to show that our retention rates, our graduation rates, everything about us is trying to drive forward and become better. We don't spend time with status quo, and we're all competing against each other as well. And so status quo just doesn't carry the day, but it takes resources in order to push status quo to a different level. So, and at my university, I'm not going to span out what everybody else talk, but at my university, it's just like every other university. I get very, very concerned, especially because of a first-gen grad and my experiences in life when I have to continue to raise tuition to levels that create a debt load for students. It's incredibly challenging for them to access the economy in the future. And that's significant and that's serious. And so we're very, very diligent in trying to keep our tuitions low. And when you look at what we scholarship and what we do, it is amazing what you can come to the University of Mississippi for as an in-state resident in particular. It's incredible to have that experience at a university like ours. So I would just ask that whatever you can do for us this session, very, very important, especially after last year at Canada. We need the help. We've got a couple years to make up here. That's it. Thank you, Commissioner.
Good morning. Madam Chair, member of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly about the needs at Mississippi Valley State University. And as our colleagues here present, our biggest need really is our deferred maintenance log. As the Guardian report shows, we have the largest percentage and largest need amongst all of our institutions as far as our deferred maintenance. And that has impacted our retention and persistence because a lot of times when we think about students at a university, when students leave a university, we really focus on possibly the academic reasons, but there are other reasons as well. When your facilities does not meet today's needs and standards, that can be an emphasis of why they may not continue at the university. So although we've been able to move forward with some very significant projects for the last couple of years, that need is still very strong. And the help and assistance in that area would be something that we really, really would appreciate. The other thing is we are moving forward with what we're calling our academic success model, really building on our university college strategies for intrusive advising and all those things really to help students continue to matriculate at the university and being more intentional in doing that. So we are going to potentially be asking for some support to really continue to build that academic success model by adding academic coaches and advisors, and all those things really speaks about, again, being intentional and intrusive to assure that we are continuing to follow up with them on a daily basis to assure their continued matriculation. And as our enrollment continues to increase, we do recognize that we do have a significant percentage of our students who are part-time students. And those non-traditional students really are students who are coming back to the university, who stopped out, who transferred. And we have to understand when we look at data, when we look at data like graduation rates, those students are never captured in your graduation percentages. And so we are recognizing, again, even though we have that large percentage of part-time students, they are a integral part of our university success. And so again, I think that continuing to look at that academic success model and deferred maintenance needs would be something that we really, really need and ask for your support. But I do want to thank you all for all the support that you all have given in the last years. It's really appreciated. And all these things assures that, our saying is Valley in motion. And all this help really assures that we do stay in motion. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. Joe Paul, University of Southern Mississippi. First, thank you for your prior support for higher education and for your leadership here today and during this session. Just want to remind you of a few things about Southern Miss. This state is blessed to have 3 Research One institutions, Mississippi State, the University of Mississippi, and Southern Miss. And at Southern Miss, our faculty have averaged between $95 million and $100 million in externally funded research expenditures per year for the last 5 years. And about 85% of that research is what we used to call applied. We now call translational, rather than pure or basic research that's leading directly to innovation, economic development, and jobs in the state of Mississippi. And you've got to look no further than the Mississippi Gulf Coast, the work that we're doing in the ocean sciences, to see that Ocean Arrow relocated from San Diego to the port of Gulfport because of our research in ocean engineering, that 3 or 4 more startups that started in our incubator at Southern Miss are now operating on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So there's a tremendous impact there. I'm also really proud that we focus on educating Mississippians. About 3/4 of our students are from Mississippi. We educate the second most to Mississippi State, Mississippi Community College transfer students. And as was mentioned earlier, we've got to find a way to build that into our measurements and when we look at success. So we feel as though we're serving the state well. And I want to close by just talking a little bit about what's already been said around performance-based funding. The board's working hard on that. We know that it's coming. And we welcome something that holds us accountable to increasing on a continual basis our results in terms of enrollment, retention, progress, and most importantly, graduation. And at Southern Miss, again, I said 73% of our students are in state. I wanted to mention that 63% of those students go on to work in Mississippi within the first 2 years of graduation. So we welcome that accountability, but here's what I want to say to you is that the states where performance-based funding has worked the best are states that have created appropriations above and beyond the keeping the doors open. In other words, if you could consider how we've been funded, say, the average of the last 4 years as a base to keep all 8 of these institutions viable, and then could create an incentive pool and appropriation above that, for which we would have to earn that through the work that we do through the formula, that's a win-win for the state of Mississippi and for these institutions of higher learning. Thank you.
Madam Chair, distinguished members of the committee, thank you for allowing us to be here today. I appreciate your commitment to higher education. Higher education is vital. It's vital for this state, for our future, for all the students that we educate to prepare and equip them to be leaders here in this state and beyond. It's vital, the work that we do. You know, we're a major research land-grant university, and we have a tremendous mission, obviously, in teaching and preparing these young students to be leaders, but in serving the state and growing the economy and creating jobs for all of our citizens in the state of Mississippi. And that's what we're committed to. We have an office in every single county in the state of Mississippi. We have 4 regional research extension campuses. We have our 3 academic campuses. We have our CAVS Center just out from Canton. We work with, obviously, our farmers and ranchers across the state. We work with families and helping them be as supportive of their children and their welfare as we can. We work with city governments, county governments. We help write federal grants for these communities. And in some cases, we administer those grants for those communities all across the state. We are leading and helping in cybersecurity training across the state of Mississippi. Our CAV Center works with industries and manufacturers to help them be as efficient in their operations so they can grow and expand and hire more Mississippians. We're also doing artificial intelligence training for industries all across the state. This is meaningful work that we do. But it's the people that do this work. We have to have highly qualified, trained, committed people to serve in our classrooms, to do the research. $350+ million generated by our scientists and researchers. These are dollars coming into our state that are transformational for our future. But it's the people that do this. So, Madam Chair, my number 1 priority by far, in fact, my only priority, is our people. The people of our university who deserve to be paid an adequate wage. I can tell you other states, and the chancellor and I have opportunities to go and attend meetings together with other university presidents from across the country and across our footprint, especially here in the Southeast. And we sit around a table kind of like what we are right here with other presidents, and we talk to them about the support that they receive from their state legislatures. And this past year was, well, it was very shocking for us to hear the large increases that other states were making in their universities because they see the value and the return from their universities to grow their states and their economies. And when they asked us, well, and we had a meeting with all of our SEC presidents. It was just after your special session, and we learned at that meeting that our budgets were going to be cut by 1.1%. And I'll just tell you, that was a shock. And for us to go home and sit down with the leadership on our campus and explain to them why they can't get a pay raise or a cost of living adjustment this year. For all these people that are doing so many important tasks and jobs to serve all of our citizens, it's heartbreaking. So, Madam Chair, my plea is for our people. We all face inflationary cost. Our costs go up. Just, we can't control certain things. We have to pay the bills. We have to keep the lights on. We have to keep the classes warm, the rooms warm and upkept, and all the things that we're required to do that you expect us to do. And yes, we have tuition dollars. We do generate revenues and we use those dollars, but we have to have a partnership, a true partnership. We're going to raise dollars. Our families and their students who come to our schools are going to pay us. We use those dollars efficiently as we can. But when you bring in all those dollars, it's not enough to pay all of our expenses and inflation and have enough funding just to provide a meaningful pay raise to these valuable people who are serving our state. We asked InSpark to do an assessment for us on our economic impact and what just our one school means to the state of Mississippi. And well, they came out and they showed their analysis and that we contribute right at $4 billion annually to our economy. And for every $1 that you invest in just our school, Mississippi State, we generate $25 of income back to the state of Mississippi. So we talk about return on investments. You can't find a better return on investment in our school and all of the schools represented here for what we do to grow this economy in the state of Mississippi. I had my financial people, because of what I shared with you earlier, look at just one state just to the east of us, because when we met with these presidents, I was amazed at the funding that two of our universities to the east of us, Auburn and University of Alabama. And so we looked at it from the past decade. And over a decade ago, the Alabama legislature decided to make significant investments in higher ed in their state because they recognized they could grow their economy. And they have. You look at Alabama's economy in the last decade, it's quite remarkable. Adjusted inflation dollars, the state of Alabama has invested over 10 years. Their dollars have gone up an increase of 60% investment in the universities in the state of Alabama. During that same time period, this past decade, state of Mississippi, we're almost a 2% decline in our funding. And as the chancellor mentioned, how we're able to continue to do the things that we're doing at the level we are is quite remarkable. So please, I ask you and plead that you recognize there is tremendous value sitting around this table for our future, for our state, which you all love and you all support. And these universities can move our state forward and have a tremendous impact for all of our citizens. This is an investment for all Mississippians when you invest in IHL. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to say a few words.
Thank you.
I'll echo again what my colleagues have said, but thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, for giving us a chance to talk about what all 8 universities are doing for the state of Mississippi. We all have our purpose, and we have our research institutions and we have our regional institutions, which are mainly teaching institutions. And that's what we do best at the W. We are able to take students who come to us with financial need. They graduate with the least amount of debt. There's recent reports that just came out on Pell Grant recipients 4 years post-graduation, and MUW's Pell recipients have the highest income 4 years after. And so we've been noted for the social mobility of our students. And so we thank you for allowing us to do that. As I said, we have the highest percentage of Mississippi residents at the W. 77% of ours are employed in Mississippi 3 years after. We produce more baccalaureate degree nurses than any other institution in the state. our recent graduates in the spring from nursing. I think 84 or 86% of them are employed in the state of Mississippi. And so we want to be able to continue doing what Mississippi needs, producing those teachers, producing those nurses, and offering students the opportunity to advance and change lifetimes for their families. We are, again, we all need to worry about our faculty and staff salaries and want to be able to provide competitive and a viable sense for all of them. That is very important to us. Needs for our facilities are also very important. We have a lot of old buildings that cost a lot to maintain and are expensive to renovate. Our biggest request for the bonds funding is taking a 1920s gymnasium and making that into an area that will house graduate nursing and our public health and kinesiology programs. We want to be able to expand that nursing program. Doing that for that old pool gym will allow us to produce more nurses. We're also looking at ways that we can impact rural health and provide nursing in areas where it's difficult for facilities to recruit and retain workers. So we appreciate all of the help, and we look forward to having the opportunity to talk with NCHEMS about this performance funding. We're not afraid of performance funding because we perform very well. We produce more graduates per 100 full-time students than any other institution in our system. We have a very strong relationship with the community colleges, and we look forward to strengthening those pathways that we are able to impact more lives and help all of Mississippi. So thank you again for your support, and we appreciate it.
Good morning. I'm Denise Gregory, and I have the pleasure to represent Jackson State University as the interim president. I want to begin by just sharing some positive things that have happened at Jackson State most recently with our enrollment increase of 2%, which we're excited to see that. We also are excited about our graduation rates. So we see a 19 percentage point increase for Jackson State this past year, which is huge for us. And I share that because I wanted to make an impact in terms of the things that we're doing positively, but also mention to you some things that we need. And in particular, our deferred maintenance is a priority for us. We have about $122 million worth of deferred maintenance on our campus, which is among the largest in the system. We also have with that about 900 projects that includes. And so with that, we want to make sure that we recognize the importance of taking care of our buildings, very similar to what some of my other colleagues have already mentioned. I too also want to share with you about Jackson State in our residential space that we have on campus. Currently, we have about 2,100 beds that we have available for our students. And with that, we also have about 700 beds that are offline for the university. And this is due to McAllister Whiteside, which is one of our dorms that's been off since the fall of 2021, that can house about 335 students. And also our University Point, which houses about 400 students. And so having about 700 beds offline is really huge for us. And so I ask you to consider thinking about how we might be able to work to create housing for our students. But I do want to share some positive things about housing. McAllister Whiteside, we are moving forward with that project which you all funded for us. And with that, we will bring those 335 beds back online in the fall of 2027. We also have some positive projects that we have going on that you funded, and that's our Jackson State Dining Hall, which we also hope to have that with groundbreaking for this upcoming spring and bring that back online for the fall of 2027. But very similar to what my colleagues have mentioned, the most important thing for the university are our people. We have great people at Jackson State. We are an R2 university where we too do research, and many of our faculty are being asked to come to other places to be a part. And so in order for us to compete and keep them here in the state, we need to be able to provide to them pay increases. The last pay increase that we received was in fiscal year 25, and prior to that was fiscal year 23. And so we ask that you also consider that as a place of funding for us as well, because again, our people at Jackson State are the most important asset. So we remain committed to doing great work here for the state of Mississippi, but with the sustained investment that you are able to provide to us, we know that we can do more for the state. And so thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning.
Good morning. Tracy Cook, bring you greetings from Alcorn State University. Thank you, Madam Chair and other members. Allow me this opportunity to share some good news, positive feedback by Alcorn State University. Currently, 75% of our students are Pell eligible. You look at percentage-wise, about 65% of females, 35% of males. 75% of our students are from the state of Mississippi. Beyond graduation, about 70-some% of those students stay in the state of Mississippi. And your average income earnings in the STEM process is roughly about $47,000 of those individuals staying in the state of Mississippi. So some of our biggest needs, housing. I'm one of that university that didn't meet our benchmark as far as enrollment due to the fact we had about 275 bed space offline. But this fall 2025, the bed space will be back online. So our total capacity of beds, 1,997 bed space under the umbrella of the university. Our faculty, staff, our people, as look for salary increases, we was able to give some pay raises, 3% pay raise in the academic year 2022, 23, and 24. So we definitely ask for that support so we can continue to be competitive with our research. If you look at Southwest Mississippi, our economic impact, roughly about $187 million for Southwest Mississippi, in which we bring economic impact for the state of Mississippi. So again, just want to thank you for your support and your continued support as we move forward. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and the committee. I'm Dan Ennis from Delta State University. Much of what I say, I think I would echo my colleagues at this table. One of the blessings of being at Delta State and being in an IHL institution in the state of Mississippi is that we get to be part of an ecosystem. And that ecosystem is helping Mississippi in ways that sometimes can't be measured. And what I mean by that is the mix of research universities and teaching institutions, regional institutions combined with larger institutions gives Mississippians a wide range of choices for education. And talking to students my entire career, I have students at Delta State that would not succeed at Mississippi State. And I know that there are students at Mississippi State that would not succeed at Delta State because of the profile of the institution, the way we approach learning, even the layout of the campus and the size of the campus and the interactions of the students. So the ecosystem of the IHL system is one of the undersung benefits that Mississippi really should celebrate rather than look on with some suspicion, which is that we can reach out to every Mississippian and find a spot for them if they're seeking a bachelor's degree. And it may take some shuffling. That's why we have transfers, because a student may start at school A and say, this is not the right fit for me. But thank goodness in Mississippi, there's a school B and a school C and a school D. And if a student is not happy at Delta State, they can try Alcorn. They can go to the W. They can go to Ole Miss. And between that and the community colleges, we do give Mississippians a wide range of educational experiences. And I would hate to see that variety of positives be diminished in a mistaken approach that consolidation is more efficient. It is not efficient for a student to start a degree and not complete it. And so having a wide range of institutions available, affordable, using in-state tuition, and communicable in the sense that we look at curriculum similarly, we have similar values, but we have different ways to get those students to college degrees. Those are benefits. Those are things that Mississippi should be proud of, and I'm proud to be part of that system. I would add also that, I think many of us at this table, we look at our metrics all the time. I don't fear any accountability because my accountability is higher than any accountability that anybody in this room could devise, because I lose sleep over my enrollment. I get very unhappy when a single student fails to complete their degree. So that's something that we just need to know. Give me the target, give us the target, and we'll hit it. But the target has to be rationalized by our missions. My mission at Delta State is very different than a mission at a land-grant institution. And that's okay. That's a positive. And my last comment really has to do with stewardship. You know, all of us who sit in these offices, we don't own our own buildings. We don't spend our own money. We are stewards of the state of Mississippi's property, and we're stewards of our students' tuition dollars and the taxpayer appropriations and then grant monies and private donations. And we have to steward that money to its proper location and its proper and best outcome. And my experience of this as a president is that y'all can pay now, you can pay later. And what I mean by that is Delta State, for example, did not raise tuition in 24 and did not raise tuition in 25. And we do not want to raise tuition this year, but there'll come a point where inflation, PERS, and the general operating costs of the university are going to push my hand to that tuition lever. I don't think any president ever likes to raise tuition, and we fight against it. But the decision is pay now or pay later. And we would rather the students not take on the debt, because when a student takes on debt, when they graduate, they have less income to drive into the economy and increases prosperity in Mississippi, because they're sending that money back to the feds to pay off their student loans. So holding tuition down is one of the highest values that we can aspire to as a public university system. And I hope you'll help us keep that tuition low. Thank you.
Senators, thank you for indulging us and letting our chancellor and presidents talk about the needs on our campus. At this time, I'll take any questions from any members of the committee.
Anyone have any questions from the?
Commissioner, thank you for everybody's comment. I'm going to make just kind of an opening statement. I am one of the people that is pushing performance-based. I'm not apologizing for that. I sat before the community college presidents the other day, and I told them we should not be ascending to 55. We should be ascending to 60 and 65%. I am looking at the group of people that head the institutions that should have us in that position. Many of you haven't been there for that long, but this is something that we have to do as a state. Some of your performance metrics are excellent. You have been achieving this. Some of you have not. You talk about, and I was glad to hear to talk about IHL funding of some of our institutions in our surrounding states. If you look at the percentage of what our state does in higher ed based on our total state budget, you'll find that we're much higher than some of the other places around the country. We have a lower budget, and that has to be accordingly. So there's less to go around. So these are some things that we've said over and over again, the board has to address as IHL. So I appreciate, we want performance-based. We know that you're different, but we want to see performance. And some of you, quite frankly, haven't performed. So I told the community college presidents to take that to that, back to that. I also, we had people in here and looking at workforce in December. Only a very few of you have reached out and looked at Accelerate to really see how that you can maximize your jobs and what those students are going to earn. It's time for every one of you to do that. Some of you have, some of you haven't. So I want to see performance. We want to be your partners, but we don't want to have to be the heavy all the time doing this. This is what the board needs to be doing. They need to be looking at these issues and really measuring these performance metrics. There was a performance-based budget that was done. that would have put you on this years and years ago. The legislature held it hold harmless for a little while, but then it was up to the board, and the board didn't do that. So it is time that we look at performance-based budgeting. Alabama is introducing a new one in their legislature. Tennessee, almost 100% of their budget is performance-based. LSU has some type of one. So we are looking across the country. Every state in the country is looking to see performance-based. You will see that we have also added to performance-based budgeting. I mean, we have looked at this in our K-12. We've increased our K-12 expenditures. You hear our critics saying it quite often, but we've also seen a dramatic performance difference in K-12 as well. We haven't seen that in IHL as much when you look at those numbers over a period of time. So I'm going to say that we want to work, but we got to see performance. And some of you have been outstanding performers, others not so much. So with that, I'm going to just make those statements because I felt like some of them were almost a little bit directed. But we hear you. And that's all we want for the state, is to see us be high performers. So Commissioner, I'm going to ask you just a question. Walk me through why we've got roughly 50% of our institutions where Mississippians are actually paying more on out-of-state students. I saw your numbers, but then you gave me the numbers the other day, which I greatly appreciate. And we've got about half of our in those institutions, we've got about half of our out-of-state actually paying less money than our resident students. Can you tell me why that is?
If you're speaking on the data on net tuition collected, I would have to speculate, Senator Boyd, that, you know, net tuition is gross tuition less scholarships. Okay. So for some institutions, particularly if you take a small institution, I'll use Delta State as an example. Okay. Delta State, you know, around 3,000 students. Delta State's probably got 300 student athletes, 350 student athletes. So more than 10% of their students are student athletes. Now, I would also venture to say that if you look at your array of sports, you're a D2 institution, okay? I would speculate that many of your swimming and diving student athletes are out of state. Volleyball, softball. So, you know, they are probably, as a percentage, more of them, just if you look at student athletes, they're out-of-state students. That's just the nature of some sports that we see. So as a result, if you look at their discount rates and you look at the overall net tuition collected, it may look like that they're collecting less per student. But if you look at the overall makeup of the university, they're by far, you know, a in-state institution. So if you look at the dollars, you know, it tells a different story. So there are some nuances there that could explain that, particularly for smaller institutions, particularly if they have athletics.
Okay, I'll get back some more information to you because looking at it, it doesn't quite tell that story. So looking at the comprehension of it, I'm very concerned about y'all getting back to us with a funding formula. You know, our timeline with doing this, this is a tight deadline. Do you expect to have us back a formula in time for us to be using this?
Well, here's what I would say, Senator Boyd. I think this is very important work, okay? Because it's going to impact all of our institutions substantially. Now, I do think, based on the timeline the NCHIMS gave us, that, you know, we'll have a draft next month. They will circulate that draft to our campuses. They'll get input. they'll tweak it, and they're working on trying to get something to the board as soon as possible. So I think we'll have a really good idea of what it's going to look like here in short order.
Okay. Okay. We are very interested in seeing that. So thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Thank you all for coming this morning. I know it was early to come in and to present. So we do definitely thank you for that. One of the things that we acknowledge too is that, and we recognize that, you know, all of us do, that the students are our future. You all are important to us. It's important that the jobs that you do, we don't take that for granted. The state of Mississippi does not take that for granted. We know that's our future. That's our economic future. We're very hopeful that, you know, we'll begin to see the performance indicators, as you've described. We're going to see it soon. We're looking forward to that as well. But again, thank you for the job that you do and the diversity that you do offer across our state. That is exciting when you sit here and you get to hear we're from the drones to the ocean, you know, to all the different types of research that we do here in the state of Mississippi and offering it to our citizens. So that is so exciting. So I applaud you for that. Thank you for the job that you do, and thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you, Senator Parks, and to all the members of the committee and the staff for what you do.